The third poem is called London, Two Houses. In the first, we landed into new thoughts about the future, thrust unwitting into a summer tornado, a succession of someone else's lies. But we planted a hopeful row of cedar saplings, still too small, me in the white dress, a series of losses to follow. In the second, we tried to make sense of the grief that comes with adding one more and realizing that we love her more than we love each other. The second house was haunted. The lady who died by the fireplace while her husband drank schnapps didn't want us to be happy. She tried to flush us out and drown us in our sleep, not realizing that the flood pushed our boats back together.
This book, I wanted it to start with some of the poems that really grounded and rooted us in the land and language and thousands of years of Ulnu Mi'kmaq history, you know, and so those were the poems that I chose to be earlier on in the book. And so one of them, the first one, is called Here. It was this Machamigao who birthed our language, cradled and cawed, bellowed lightning into drumlin fields, bled fire, until we spoke of it, of mastodons, and the way rivers move. It's actually been a very long journey to reclaim my Mi'kmaq language in my lifetime. I actually grew up all over Canada, but home is Southwest Nova Scotia, and where I live now in Ulsukuk. But we have very few fluent Mi'kmaq speakers in Southwest Nova Scotia. There are fluent families and people, and even young people in other communities, but in a whole region, we don't have very many fluent speakers. And so and that was by colonial design. So it's not a lack of interest, you know, on my family's part, but that was by design. And so it's this big journey to reclaim language and also trying to reclaim relationship to land. You know, as the generations go on, we're more and more disentangled from landscape. But I've had such wonderful opportunities to spend time on land and harvesting or having a relationship with, and it's never as much time as I'd like and as I need, but I do have time, and sometimes my poetry, I just want to capture that feeling, that essence of that moment. And so one of those is called Sweet Grassing. Between salt and forest, past the high tide mark of weeds, is the sweet sight, mud rich with scent as cinnamon, drawing my feet into deep embrace, sections popping as the bases release, giving up root. I descend, coddling the grass in my face like an auntie, pleasured by the long-awaited reunion. Crawling through, eyeing up blades, losing myself in the green. And I still remember this conversation I was having with somebody a few years ago. And I don't think we weren't understanding each other. He didn't understand why everything meant so much to me, why being so careful to pick up our language, why that meant so much, and why it meant so much to talk about our history and to do this work. I was frustrated because I didn't know how else to explain this feeling. And so sometimes what we do as poets then is that we go deeper into that feeling And then we find ways to put these words together to see if this conveys this thing that we're feeling better than being able to articulate, and to explain it. And so this was one of those. It's called Depths. And it's dedicated for those who dance. Some days, I hear the bones rattling as they pebble against each other. These memories, not heavy at first, exhaustion does seep in. All this gravity of grief I'm tethered to, with no other resolution. We round dance, our feet drumming, pounding down dust to stone, believing this endurance will one day break us free.
Well, and this is called My Body is a Vessel. And it goes out to anybody who didn't want to have kids, even though, like myself. I proudly did not have any children. Okay. As someone who appears to have a uterus, I often hear that my body is a vessel. Oh, a vessel, I say? Like a submarine? Like the Millennium Falcon? I imagine it's like a luxury cruise liner with tiny umbrellas and little deck chairs and like chlorine smells coming from my splashy pool belly button. But no, tick tick, they say. Women are having children well into their 40s, they say. There's still time to find another husband, they claim. Well, I hear that trans couples are adopting children well into their 50s. I hear some women are not having children happily into their 90s. My body is not missing anything. Okay, maybe like a better spleen. If I could have a better spleen, that'd be really great. And like maybe some like interchangeable sex organs, that'd be great. My body is a vessel for art, for unfinished poems, for unfinished love affairs, for an unending affection for whatever family I have. And yes, maybe I did watch Eraserhead a few too many times to truly enjoy the sound of a newborn baby. And maybe, but I still go to pageants and hockey games and recitals. I've read to bedtime stories to kids I've held as babies. I am proudly Uncle Charlie, and when your child is old enough, I will teach it how to swear and bring me booze. My body is not a vessel. It's not waiting for a seed. And though many parents will tell me that I am missing the greatest love of all, you need not remind me of something that I will never know. Because as a human, I am aware being childless can sometimes be the greatest gift you can give, because kids need people who want to be parents. My first lisping hero. We called you Champ, Mike Tyson. When you and I open up our mouths, we turn into bullseyes, and we stay silent in our defense because words can be landmines to walk into. You were my first lisping hero. I imagined us in my playground, bullies fleeing our earthquake footsteps. I tried to duck and dance around them like a butterfly Ali, but you were no one's punching bag. You launched iron fists back to the tune of 38 arrests before you hit age 13. The boxing world plucked you from reform school. Maybe you felt saved. I know how education can seem like the enemy, and for a boy targeted for his high-pitched, lispy voice, you probably felt relieved the teacher would never call on you again. Your lisp never got better. Your voice never dropped. you put up your dukes. Mike Tyson, when you gave up on language, maybe you let your dreams narrow. Before your mom died, she gave you to your boxing coach, Gus D'Amato, who polished you up like a customato, but he never could install any brakes. There were no bells in the bedrooms you strode into, no towels to be thrown in front of your thundering ways, raised to be a wild animal. You look calmest, wrestling with your Bengal tiger. Even your friends said you belonged in a cage. But Mike, you're as used to betrayal as being punched in the gut. I mean, the man who could have protected you left when you were just 2 years old. There are no S sounds in Dad. You could have said it every day without fear of retribution. Instead, you shouted into barrel chests. It bounces back with the blank stares of men who love you for your fists and the bags of money they bring. Maybe what you needed was a male embrace, not to be cut short by a bell. Now, in the wake of Hollyfield's spat-out ear, your empire crumbles. Your 4-year-old daughter dies, your other children look at you in fear, and your beloved tiger paces behind some stranger's bars. The television calls you a monster, speaks of your lies, your crimes, your legacy of violence. Mike, I like your new heavyweight fight, the one called sobriety, as your daughter's easy laughter makes you a champion, the father who came back, the father who's there. I've written so many endings to your poem, Mike. Some were too kind, others damned you, but you grew in love and recovery. Some humans are capable of so much when we give them a chance to get up off the mat. Okay, so why did the trans kid cross the road? In 2019, Ontario's newly elected provincial Conservative government scheduled a debate about the existence of trans and non-binary people and gave out a hotline number to report teachers talking about gender identity or respecting pronouns. Our former Liberal government had made it essential for schools to welcome trans and non-binary identities. 1. I am 6 years old. My identity has no words. The crossing guard asked me if I'm a boy or a girl. My mouth is a goldfish. I start to cry. He asks again, and because he sounds mean, I say, "Girl?" I don't know what to do with the feeling that this is a lie, and I almost throw up from the rush. 2. I imagine this incident as a recent one, occurring under our former, more inclusive government. When the crossing guard asks me if I'm a boy or a girl, I tell him I'm transmasculine. I tell him my pronouns and that my name is Charlie. Maybe he's still mean, but now he can't say anything. 3. I imagine I am that kid today. This morning, our new government has instructed schools that trans and non-binary identities aren't real. I approached the crossing guard. Yesterday, I told him my name and pronouns. Today, he is holding them as a series of blades. He asked me, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And I know it's mean. He grips the pronouns. My blood spills between his fingers. I run. He doesn't stop the cars.